President Trump heads to New Hampshire today for a rally, fresh off accepting the Republican nomination for president last night. Today's rally is scheduled for 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and it will be held in a hangar at Manchester-Boston Regional Airport. The president has kept his eye on the Granite State after narrowly losing New Hampshire to Hillary Clinton in 2016. The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker shows him trailing behind Joe Biden by 10 points ahead of November's election. So for more on this, let us bring in Stephanie Murray. Stephanie, you're the author of the Massachusetts Politico Playbook, so you are the one to talk about what's happening on the ground there. What do we expect to hear from the president at this rally?
I think tonight in New Hampshire, you can expect to hear President Trump take some swings at Joe Biden. The polling shows that Biden is ahead of Trump in New Hampshire, and it's a state that the president really wants to win in 2020 because he lost it so narrowly to Hillary Clinton in 2016. The New Hampshire primary was a big validator for Trump 4 years ago, and then narrowly losing that state in the general election. The campaign has had its eyes on New Hampshire for a couple of years now, saying that it was one of those purple states it was hoping to flip red. But Biden has a pretty significant lead there, so you can expect him to throw some punches at the former VP.
How is President Trump hoping to appeal to voters there after losing the state to Hillary Clinton back in 2016?
You know, I think it's tough, and it's something that the president is dealing with all over the country. The election has really become all about the coronavirus pandemic, the economy, and what is going to happen with schools. He's endorsed a few Republican candidates who are running in primaries in New Hampshire in September, so I'll have my eye on how those candidates do as well to kind of get sort of a litmus test on how voters are feeling about President Trump and his endorsement and how they'll feel about him in November.
That was going to be my question, because there are primary elections going to be held September 8th. Of course, it's a Tuesday. So you mentioned that the candidates being endorsed by the president, you're going to be keeping a close eye on them. What are these key races?
So the races that I'm looking at are the governor's race. The Republican governor, Chris Sununu, I think he'll be fine in the primary, but I'm keeping my eye on him in November. And then there are a couple of primaries for the Senate seat and one of the House seats. In CD1, represented by Chris Pappas, there's a Trump-endorsed candidate, and then another one running for Senate.
As you know, nearly 40,000 voters have already cast their ballots for the primary, thanks to the temporary expansion of absentee voting, of course, due to the coronavirus outbreak. So do you expect a similar response for the presidential election in November?
You know, I think that this primary is something of a test run for how vote by mail is going to work. Based on all of the polling we've seen, vote by mail has been very popular among Democrats, and Republican voters are a little bit more weary of it, even though, you know, President Trump has raised a lot of questions about mail-in voting, but kind of behind the scenes, his campaign or surrogates have been encouraging mail-in voting. Here where I am in Massachusetts, we have a primary in a few days. Over 1 million people have requested ballots to vote by mail. So all of these different states are planning their vote by mail program. And it'll be interesting to see how many people use that in November, especially if there's some sort of COVID spike, which experts have said may happen. It may kind of discourage people from going to the polls and choose that vote by mail option instead.
Yeah, we've been seeing those stark numbers, those predictions popping up. Stephanie Murray, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.